Rahim. Today's topic is sternoclavicular joint and acromioclavicular joint. First of all, you should know the type of every joint as you have done in general anatomy. The types, now every joint has its type, so you should remember its type of every joint. And this sternoclavicular joint, you can see this is the sternum, body of sternum. This is the sternal notch, and this is suprasternal notch, and this is the sternal notch, and this is clavicle. So the sterno mean sternum, so lateral part of the body of manubrum sterni, and the clavicular medial end of the clavicle makes a joint known as the sternoclavicular joint. And the medial end of the clavicle is not straight, it is little bit rounded in structure, so this joint is included in saddle type. This joint is synovial type, but the synovial, which type of the synovial joint? Saddle joint. It is very important for the exam point of view. Now the articular surface is the rounded sternal head, which is medial head of the end of the clavicle, articulate with the shallow socket which is present superolaterally. Mean ये body of sternum का अगर हम divide करें, this is the upper part, superior part, this is lower part, and this is the lateral, this is medial. This socket is present superolaterally. Now this this joint is made by these two bones. And also you can see this is the first costal cartilage, this is first rib, and this is the costal cartilage. And the first rib, it's mean also take part in the formation of this joint, manustemina, and adjacent part of the first costal cartilage, not the rib, first costal cartilage. Now you can see this joint is divided by an articular disc. This articular disc is fibrous type of the cartilage, not the hyaline, not the elastic. It is fibrous cartilage, and because fibrous cartilage provides very strength to this joint, and it divides the joint cavity into two compartments. These articular surfaces are covered by the fibrous cartilage. So the articular surfaces of sternum, articular surface of the sternal head of the clavicle, both are covered by the fibrous cartilage. This is very important point. Now the capsule of the joint. The capsule of every joint lines the margin, and you know this joint has sternal and clavicular head. So and also it is included the first costal cartilage. So the cartilage is line all the margin of three structures, I mean sternal end of clavicle, manubrum sternum, and part of the first costal cartilage. The joint is separated, I have told you that, by a disc. This is the disc, articular disc, and these are the articular surfaces. They are covered by the fibrous cartilage. हालांकि हमने पढ़ा है कि synovial joint is the surfaces of the synovial joints are mostly covered by the hyaline cartilage, except this joint. The surfaces of this joint is also covered by the fibrous cartilage. Very very important. And margin जो होता है, margin is lined by the capsule. So the ligaments of this joint, this is joint, ligament of this joint. In this diagram you can see the three ligaments. These are both the clavicles, and this yellow ligament is known as the interclavicular ligament. In this diagram you can see this is the interclavicular ligament which is attached. This is suprasternal notch in the midline and at the medial end of the clavicle. This is called the interclavicular ligament. This ligament अब ये कैसे सपोर्ट करेगा? इट सपोर्ट दिस जॉइंट सुपीरियरली, ऊपर नहीं जाने देगा. Another ligament is called the sternoclavicular. Sternoclavicular, sternum से clavicular. This is sternum and this is clavicle. The sternoclavicular joints are two in number, anterior and posterior. पीछे भी होगा, anterior and posterior. And this joint, sternoclavicular joint, the posterior ligament is weaker than the anterior. Mean anterior is more, क्योंकि anteriorly ज़्यादा support चाहिए होती है. Then nature give this anterior sternoclavicular ligament. It is more stronger than the posterior sternoclavicular ligament. The third ligament, which is green in color, is costoclavicular ligament. Costo mean costal cartilage, and this is the clavicle. Costoclavicular ligament extend from the first costal cartilage up to the clavicle. Costoclavicular ligament. You should remember the name of these ligaments. Now the nerve supply and arterial supply. The nerve supply, internal thoracic artery and suprascapular arteries are the branches of the axillary artery, because this joint is nearer to the axilla. And the vein, the internal thoracic vein and the suprascapular vein, they accompany these arteries. Name of these vein accompany these arteries. Now the joint is supplied by the medial supraclavicular nerve and the nerve to subclavius. Nerve to subclavius arise from the roots. Upper trunk arise from upper trunk. Upper trunk is formed by the union of the C5 and C6. So this nerve supplies this joint, and the medial supraclavicular nerve is a branch of the cervical plexus. वो हम head and neck में पढ़ते हैं. These two nerves supplies this joint. Now the movement of these joints: elevation, depression, retraction, protraction, and rotation. You should only know the name of these. This is elevation, this is depression, and this is adduction, mean retraction, and this is abduction. हाथ को आगे की तरफ ऐसे कर देना. ऊपर करोगे तो upward rotation and the downward rotation. These are the movements, and these are the muscles which take part in the formation, starting of the movements of this type of the movements. These movements, mostly these movements are related with the head and neck: trapezius, rhomboidus, and you can see this is rhomboidus major, minor, and levator scapulae. So it is, I think it is little bit important than other things. Joints type and joints ligaments are most important, and the surfaces covered by which type of the cartilage, it is also important. Now the acromioclavicular joint. Acromio, this is the acromion process of the scapula, and this is the clavicle. This is the lateral end of the clavicle, and you can see there is a line, mean it is plane type of the synovial joint. So when it is plane, only the rotatory movement can take place, जो आपने जनरल एनाटॉमी में पढ़ा है. ठीक है. So this joint is made by the acromion process of scapula and the lateral end of the clavicle. And what type of this is? Plane synovial type of joint. Plane के साथ आप synovial ज़रूर लिखना. And this joint, you can see these are the articular surfaces. These are articular surfaces. Articular surfaces are joint also lined with the fibrocartilage. And this articular disc is incomplete. It is very important. Is incomplete. So the joint cavity is partially divided by this articular disc. Now the ligament of this joint, the acromioclavicular ligament. This is the acromioclavicular. Where is this? Is acromioclavicular ligament. Acromio, this is acromion process, and this is the clavicle. This is known as the acromioclavicular ligament. It is present superiorly, so it should give support superiorly to the joint. अगर कोई BCQ में लिखता है कि भाई ये जॉइंट जो है सुपीरियरली डिस्प्लेस हो गया है, तो कौन सा लिगामेंट गया? एक्रोमियोक्लेविकुलर लिगामेंट, क्योंकि ये सुपीरियरली ही सपोर्ट कर रहा है. नाउ द कोरेकोक्लेविकुलर ligament, it is very important. This is the coracoClavicular ligament. It consists of two parts, conoid ligament and trapezoid ligament. The conoid ligament and the trapezoid. The conoid ligament, you can see this is inverted, थोड़ा अंदर की तरफ मुड़ रहा है, cone shape. Apex is attached to the root of the conoid to the ये scapula है, कौन सा है यहाँ पे, क्या है? Lateral to the scapular suprascapular notch. This is suprascapular notch. This is suprascapular notch. So it's the lateral part पे attach है, and then goes to the, as the name indicate, conoid tubercle, which is present in the clavicle. Conoid tubercle which is present on the inferior surface of the clavicle. And the trapezoid part, this is horizontal, not in a twisted form, not in a cone form. This ligament, which is a part of the coracoClavicular ligament, known as the trapezoid ligament, this ligament is stretched from upper surface of the coracoid process. This is the coracoid process. The whole is the coracoid process of scapula. So it extends from the coracoid process, name indicate as cora, mean coracoid process से up to the clavicle. clavicle के किस part पे? trapezoid ridge. inferior surface पे ही होती है trapezoid ridge. So these are the ligaments of the acromioclavicular joint. ठीक है. Now the nerve supply and arterial supply are by two vessels, suprascapular and the thoracoacromial arteries, which are the branches of the axillary artery. The nerve supply is by the suprascapular and the lateral pectoral nerve. Both arise, ये दोनों ही किसकी branches हैं? Brachial plexus की. So this is the little bit about these two joints. इतना आना चाहिए, joints हैं छोटे, ठीक है, इस वजह से ये थोड़ा सा इतना ही इनके बारे में आपको आना चाहिए. इट इज मोर देन sufficient for the point of view of examination.